What's going on, my good people? I hope you're good and hope you're well. And today I want to speak from just what's in my heart, in my field, and it's this idea about reframing disease, about how we've come to the world we live in today where we see disease in this sort of linear way that we see a change in the body, we diagnose that change, and we relentlessly pursue this diagnosis with treatments, whether it's natural, because even the naturopathic world now is just allopathic herbalism, which is what I think Dr. Christopher called it. Essentially, you're using something, whether it's a natural substance or even a false substance or a laboratory made substance, i.e. pharmaceutical drug, to relentlessly kill or destroy part of the body, or to suppress a specific function or system within the body to feel better ultimately. None of them are actually healing the body. And you'll know that because most of these people that are on medications, they either stay on them for the rest of their lives or it makes them go on more. The same with herbalism and the same with naturopathic practices in today's world. The way it's taught today is that even in this world where they're using the natural substances, which are better than the pharmaceuticals, in my opinion, but they don't bring long-lasting healing because we're using them in the same framing and the same methodology as this paradigm of allopathy, where we view the body as a system that is just so disconnected, it's not coherent, and we've got to kill things inside of the body, we've got to destroy things, we've got to suppress things in order to just feel better. And what's coming into my field today is just this idea about reframing how we see disease. And I think the reason why we are in this position today is because we see disease, we see the body and a man's world as separate, distinct realities. A man who is struggling with his health, we see that if he struggles emotionally, we send him to a therapist, or if he struggles psychologically, we send him to a therapy, or a therapist where he just speaks out his stuff. If he's struggling emotionally, we just do somatic exercises, or we tell him to go play sports or something like that, go to the gym, right? If we see that he has a physical problem, we say, here's a drug, or here's a natural solution, go ahead and start taking that. And so we work purely on a physical level. If somebody's suffering spiritually from a loss of love or a loss of disconnection from nature, we say, go read the Bible or go read this spiritual text and practice this spiritual text. And it's all just sort of fragmented. And that is what brings on the issue, because the lack of understanding of how connected these are means that we'll forever be chasing our symptoms. We'll forever be chasing our diseases. We'll forever be chasing the incoherence that we live in, because we don't realize how they are all connected. And it brings me back to this idea that everything in reality that we've seen first started as a thought. Every greatest invention, this chair that I'm sitting on, this world that I'm viewing outside of my balcony now, it all began by people having thoughts. It all existed in the thought realm before it became a physical manifestation. Every time we act, we've thought it before we've acted. And this is a very deep, fundamental spiritual law, or a law that governs the world or the universe, however you want to call it. And it's this idea that it's the inner process. It is the thought. It is the non-physical that came first before the physical manifestation of something. If we go into the Taoist philosophy and we look at the yin-yang logo, and it's very apparent that it's always the yin that comes before the yang. But they are not separate, because at the peak of the yin is where the yang starts, and at the peak of the yang is when the yin starts. And it is one cohesive, circulatory, continuous change. They're not separate from each other. A yang deficiency is a yin excess, right? And so everything is related, but it all started with the inner process first, with the non-physical process, the thing that we can't see, the thing that is invisible to us. And so this is really important to understand, because it means that our physical symptoms, the things that we see in reality, our rosacea, right, our acne, our baggy eyes, our fatigue, our mucus congestion, our constipation, the physical symptoms that we physically feel inside of our body, is not separate from the non-physical aspects of our reality, the spiritual aspects, the emotional aspects, or the psychological aspects. It's the moment we disconnect them where we start to realize we're never going to get true healing, because something that has occurred within the realities of emotion, of psychology, are interplaying and connected with the physical body. They are not separate. And so we go after the physical body and we take all the drugs and all the supplements to try and feel better, when in reality it's the inner process. It is the non-visible aspect where there is the original issue. That came first. In traditional Chinese medicine, they have a wonderful understanding of it, and though I'm surprised the West hasn't really caught on to it. It's like the 5-element system or theory, where each element, which is earth, water, fire, metal, and wood, they're all connected to specific kinds of energies. And for example, speaking of myself, earth connected to the spleen and the stomach, and the liver is connected to fire, anger, right? And they've mapped out this whole system, which shows you that nothing is disconnected, okay? Our physical organs, they have relationships to our emotions. They have relationships to the thoughts, belief patterns, and the attributes and the resistances that we hold within the body. And it is often those resistances that are created that creates the physical symptoms. And this is really aligned to what, like, Arnold Mandel's work, someone that you might have heard me speak about in previous videos, where he talks about the different channels in which things can be expressed. Impulses, unconscious impulses, resistances, repressions, emotional suppression, pains, traumas. They're all seeking awareness, they're seeking integration, because there was a moment in reality in which you stopped considering it, where you resisted your experience, where you wished that it was different. And those impulses are looking for integration, they're looking to be seen. These are childhood wounds, all the things that we've grown up with. And there are various channels in which they can appear from. So your body is one of those channels. How else is the psychological, non-physical realm supposed to communicate to the physical? If something is non-physical, unseen, unknown, such as the unconscious, how is it supposed to become known? How is it supposed to get your attention as the ego self? It has to come through and project itself into our reality, right? So it has to project itself in the various channels that there are. That could be fantasies, thoughts, belief patterns. That could be emotions, right? We feel like our tremendous anger repression blurts out in moments of unconsciousness. That is a projection. That is a way we can relate to, we actually have stuff inside of us. And the body is no different, right? In this framing of disease, the body is no different. It's just a channel in which these impulses can express themselves. So you have a headache, but you think that you need to drink more water, or you need to do a foot bath or something like that, which can help alleviate the pain and the suffering. But ultimately, the headache is an impulse of something deeply unconscious that is seeking awareness and integration. Your rashes, your hives, or your rosacea, or your acne, again, is an impulse that is seeking integration, and it's showing itself through the body channel, through the body. Your liver weakness, perhaps there's tremendous repressed trauma and repressed anger, right? Times in childhood where you were not allowed to feel angry because it was punishable, or something like that. Your lungs are the place that holds the grief, a time in your life where you didn't really want to process and acknowledge perhaps a passing of a loved one, perhaps a heartbreak, and it's provided tremendous grief, and that emotion is sort of stuck in the meridians and in the channels of the lung. The kidneys are associated with fear. Times in your life where you were really, really scared, but you were not allowed to be scared. Men go through this a lot. So that comes through as issues with urination, with blood cleansing, with lower back pain, right? So, right, your gut is and I'll do another video on this, but your gut is the alembic. The alembic is a distillation machinery that the alchemists use to take the prima materia, the rock hard stuff, and distill it down into its finer parts that they can work with. Your gut is no different. So when you've got constipation, IBS, leaky gut, you've got Crohn's, you've got colitis, inflammation, you've got diverticular, you've got all these things. Well, we look at that and we try to treat that with probiotics, right? Or we try to treat it with drugs or etc., etc. But we're not realizing that the gut is the place in which we process our reality. The colon, the small intestines, the large intestines is the place where we digest the information that comes through us in our reality. And it's the moment in which we resist any given experience where we don't want to digest part of our reality because it's too painful. Well, you'll notice that maybe a month after that, you start having gut issues. There is no coincidence. Your gut is not only the place in which we process and we break down food into its finer constituents so that it can be used into the body, it's also the place and the energy center in which digests and processes our reality. And again, if we can't process our reality because of any given reason, because it's too stressful, too painful, we're going to get gut issues. Right? Do you see how we're reframing the disease by connecting the different layers? The spiritual, the emotional, the psychological layers are not different to the physical body. They're all one. And this is tremendously important to understand, because the West, unfortunately, we don't see it that way. And so it does not mean that and the interesting thing about all of this is that you can go through these portals and get access to deeper information. So you can go to therapy, right? You can go to therapy and do a therapy like a Gestalt therapy, for example. And you can start to, if you have awareness and if you start to connect the various channels, you can connect what is unfolded within the psychology of the unconscious to your physical body. And you might start to understand why you have a specific issue in the body. And the same way you can do a detox, or you can cleanse the body, or you can use a very, very powerful herbal support formula and start paying attention to the impulses that arise through doing something like that. Most people just do these things almost in an unconscious matter. And, you might do a cleanse and you might feel something, you might feel an emotion come up, and most of us just pass it off as if it's nothing. When in reality, that is an opportunity for you to go into the deeper layers of what's really happening. So that's the crucial thing to understand, is that none of these things are inherently bad. They're just not very useful on their own. Each different element, like a spiritual practice, like a meditation, can really help you go into your body. The spiritual meditation can really help you go into your emotions. Physically cleaning the body and unblocking all of the toxins can also develop you spiritually into a more pure and whole form. Clearing the blockages to the flow of energy in the body through a cleanse, a gut cleanse or a liver flush, can bring and raise about certain emotions to the surface so that you can transmute and process them, right? So they all work hand in hand. And the moment, the day you realize this and you really start working with those elements is actually where you're going to see true healing, because it goes beyond healing. And I might have to make another video about reframing healing, right? I'm going to call this reframing disease, but we can reframe healing. What is it to heal? Is healing the ultimate end? Oh yeah, I healed my body. I healed myself from disease. But is there a way you can go further than that? Is there something over healing? Okay, you're healed, now what? What is that thing that goes beyond healing? And I want you to maybe ponder on that whilst I write some notes for my next video. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Reframing disease. Start thinking about disease as an interconnected system, and stop going after it through the protocols and through this and through that, and actually start seeing where it's all connected and gathering information. In alchemy, they call it the circumammulatio, which is like you start circling the root cause of whatever's causing you these issues. you circling, you start painting pictures, you start gathering information to help grow what that impulse is. And so you start to learn more about, okay, it's appearing through my body like this, that's connected to this kind of emotion, which is connected to this memory that I've shut off, which is connected to my parent complex, which now I'm starting to understand why I am this way. This isn't healing, this is true transformation, right? I'll be back with another video about reframing healing. But in the meantime, it was good speaking with you. Catch me on the next video. Peace.